Good Monday morning.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to Extol Unfiltered, caffeinated by NWSB. Right. There we go. The cups are right here. We've got our bigger cups, Big Happy's in the house.
Yeah.
I wish
Big
you
Happy's
could
always in
see
the house.
how much coffee is in Big Happy, but we need to measure that at some point.
We've got two Big Happies because we're happy to have a special guest in the house as well.
We will introduce our special guest coming up. Now, as always, we love it when people throw something in the comments, including questions for our guest.
Yeah, let us know. We've got my former coworker, Eric King, who we're going to be talking to here in just a second. He wrote a book here recently. And so leave a comment for Eric, myself, Angie, whatever you want to know. Or so we'll talk about anything here in Southern Indiana and beyond here on Extol Unfiltered this morning.
Now, Ben, speaking of this morning, and this weekend, I have to say I was so happy to see some rain. And, we're going to get it, aren't we?
We are going to get it, and we need it so badly across the area. We've been in a drought throughout Indiana and Kentucky, so this is like liquid gold across the area. Thankfully, not really worried about severe weather as well. So we might get a couple strong storms later today with some gusty winds, maybe a little bit of hail, but the severe weather threat is very low with this stuff. So we're getting some beneficial rain across the area this morning. We already have some wet streets out here live in New Albany, 83 degrees. And then tomorrow, I think we'll see some drier time tomorrow, especially in the afternoon, and then looking pretty wet on Wednesday. Just a slow-moving upper level low pressure system that'll be moving through the area. That'll keep some rain chances around for Thursday. And then I think we're going to start to trend drier as we head into the weekend with upper 70s and low 80s for Saturday and Sunday. So timing it out right, getting some work week rain and then looking better this weekend. And again, if you want to find your interactive radar, you can head to extolmag.com/weather.
I'm taking a live look at Extol Studios, Uptown, New Albany.
There at the corner of Vincent's and Market. We do have, again, just some damp roads out there after some morning rain. There's a lot more rain out to the west that's going to be moving through a little bit later this morning and into the afternoon as well. Happy fall, by the way. Autumn begins today at 2:19 p.m.
Okay, so question for you. My daughter is in cross-country preliminaries in New Albany, Floyd County school system. So what's it looking like around 5:30, 6:30?
Not great. Yeah, my son's got a tennis match today too. So I think the tennis will probably be canceled as well. But we've had a pretty good. It's been so dry. The sports have been in good shape so far this late summer, early fall. But looks like a washout later today.
Okay, I am going to say this. So she was supposed to, her SIU, Southern Indiana United Soccer Team, was supposed to play a rival over in Louisville. And as they were on the highway, everybody's heading there. As we're on the highway, everyone's heading there. They called it off. And then next thing you know, it was the most beautiful Sunday. So there's some saltiness.
That wasn't my fault.
There's some saltiness over here. Okay, we're going to bring our next guest up coming in a moment. But first, our event of the week presented by Rasmussen Chiropractic here on Extol Unfiltered, caffeinated by NWSB. And that is the Austin Community Park official grand opening. You're going to hold that weather for us. I know it. 10 o'clock on Thursday. And it's a really big deal in Austin. Just been a long time coming. The DNR has been integral in this, and Temple, J.A. Brody Construction, River Hills, and Heritage Engineering. And so that is the event of the week.
Jeez, putting on the pressure. Thursday, 10 a.m. I think there is a little rain chance, but I don't think it's going to be horrible. It's not going to be a washout.
It's a park. We're okay. We'll have a little tent. But then also save that date for the Dan Christiani, November 7th, 31st annual Rotary Community Toast and Benefit honoring him. It's at Huber's, black tie optional, and the proceeds are benefiting St. Elizabeth Catholic Charities and Prosser's Heavy Highway Program. And I love this. I love Dan, and I'm just going to say it because we were talking about it at Dan Christiani when we were there last week, and he said, I just don't know if anyone's going to be there. And I just
right.
Talk about
how many parts of the community
humble and just God family work in that order. That is Dan Christiani.
If you put a dot on every area in Southern Indiana, it's been touched by his work.
He has hands down touched it. Well, like we said, we've got a guest today, so I will call this up really quickly here. Eric King is the digital communications strategist for the ACLU of Kentucky, where he leads efforts to modernize and expand the organization's reach across platforms. A classically trained journalist, Eric spent more than 2 decades as a local news anchor and reporter. You know his face, you recognize him. He earned 4 Emmy Awards and an Edward R. Murrow Award for his storytelling. And then in July 25, he released his book, Breaking News: Confessions of a Disruptive News Anchor, an insider expose that critiques the local TV news industry focus on ratings and sensationalism over public service. I didn't know this part. He is a grad of the University of Louisville, go Cards, and the Diversity Executive Leadership Academy, and he now applies his experience and passion for equity to amplify voices and push for systemic change. He has found a home at the ACLU, and we are so glad to have Eric here.
Well, I love a good intro.
You love that?
That was a mouthful. And he's pretty decent at tennis. He knows a lot about ice skating.
Do you?
He's pretty good at connections, Wordle, and Waffle that we share.
The funny thing about the book, especially from people who know me, is I have such an affinity for 90s figure skating. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But the way that it actually helped to shape local news as we know it, and national news too, talking about the 94 Winter Olympics with Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan.
Yes.
That had a massive impact on the way today that we consume news.
I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah. So
you'll find that in the book.
So it's been a fascinating ride, to say the least.
So let's just jump right in here, and I'm actually going to call our director in so we can change up this camera 3 if possible, so that we can get it tight in here. Eric, first and foremost, I mean, when you write a book, that is no small feat. Well done. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Why did you feel compelled, though, to actually create this?
I think for years, and I should point out that I know a lot of people recognize me from my 10 years that I worked on the air here in the city, in Greater Louisville, Southern Indiana. But the reality is that makes up less than half of my years in broadcasting, working across the country. And what would frustrate me often, which I initially just chalked up to being the black guy in the room, because typically I was the only one, that whenever I would bring a perspective, whenever I would bring a thought, it would be instantly either dismissed, or I was told I'm looking at it the wrong way, or I'm just flat out wrong. And as a young person, you kind of accept that, right? Leadership knows what leadership knows, and it's my job to sit here and ingest and learn. But as I got older and I moved up the ranks in the industry, and I worked in one of the top 5 markets in the country, I started to realize that I'm not actually wrong. There are structural flaws in the way that we're going about producing our newscasts. And that didn't grow old. Like that stayed with me. And once I came back to the city, I would see the same things happening. So for me, once I got out of broadcasting, it was important for me to go back in and explain why people are actually turning the channel on these local newscasts. A lot of newsrooms will tell you, well, we're more digital focused now. People are getting their news from social media. But they're not doing a very good job at asking why. You know, I always use the example that Uber did not kill the taxi cab industry, right? Poor customer service did. So what are the structural flaws that are happening inside these newsrooms, inside these media conglomerates now, which are sending marching orders down to newsrooms, that they're doing that is making people look at them and saying, either I don't trust you, or I don't watch local news, or I don't see myself in local news, your story selection doesn't reflect me, whatever the criticism is. And I'm thinking through all of those things while looking at the national playing field. Because when we talk about media is always in the conversation, right? We're always talking about journalism. We're always talking about left-leaning, right-leaning, who can we trust? Those are issues, absolutely, on the national level, right? When we're talking about biased news, when people are talking left and right, most people are talking about the CNNs, the MSNBCs, and the Fox News of the world. That's not the issue in local news. I would argue, from what I've seen, and from what you all have seen too, that there's not an active effort on any local newsroom to try to sway partisanship left or right. That's not the issue. It's not an issue of we can't trust you because you're deliberately not telling us the truth. That's not a thing in local news. The struggle is the capacity of journalists in our cities has changed. The expectation of journalists in our cities have changed. So now we're putting people on the air when they don't necessarily have the capacity, the agency, the credentials, the background to be prepared for what on air matters. And I use Breonna Taylor as a good example. I wasn't on the air at the time, but I remember watching from home. And this is a time period where we needed journalists, right? And luckily we had some. But the struggle in watching that was you've got reporters in the streets covering these protests with no backstory, no knowledge, no context, no real understanding. So that leaves them with no other ability than to just say, okay, they're going this way now, and now they're going that way. Right. It's just see and say. That's not journalism. That's just broadcasting without comprehension. And so seeing those things told me, okay, we need to examine what's going on in these newsrooms to get the products that people are now turning off and going to social media, because something's not working. And we got to figure out what it is, because people deserve to be informed.
And I'm proud of you for obviously writing the book in the first place, but also you kind of had a right to slam the industry, and you did not go that route. You're trying to help the industry.
I think
it is a positive read.
Yeah, I think even people who haven't read it saying, I remember getting some text messages early on saying, well, not all of us in news are broken, Eric. Like, well, you clearly didn't read the book.
Right.
I am on your side here. I understand that as a reporter, I know what it's like to sit in a 9:30 editorial meeting and have all your ideas ditched. But then at 10 o'clock be told, we need you to cover this story, but we need you to live at noon in a different city, but then we need you live at 5 and 6 in that city. Well, if I'm on television, if I'm in a meeting at 10:30, I'm on live television at noon in a different city, and then I'm on again at 4, 5, and 6, when am I actually reporting? I'm not setting up to give you the information that you need.
Yeah.
I've been there.
The apparatus has failed.
I think that's what makes like my job in particular rewarding, is that I get to work with our partners, and not only are we producing content, but we help in, marketing, public relations, and all of that. And I remind them all the time, members of the media are humans. They're human beings. And so we try to make, in our little tiny way, make it as easy as possible, because thinking about that.
Yeah.
We're asking people, and it's not just in this industry and then journalism, it's in so many, if not every industry, we're asking people to take on more and more. So how do you report? How can you be thorough if we're asking you to do, like you said, this litany of other things?
Right.
It's
Newspaper reporters get it right.
Yeah.
Because newspaper reporters are giving the time to do the work. Right?
On a newspaper reporters,
Magazine, right,
here,
yes.
but they're doing it right, but then they cover this much. I will, as somebody who is proud to be a Courier Journal alum, I will say this: they do a horrible job of covering Southern Indiana. They do a horrible job of covering Southern Indiana. They are almost non-existent here. So their focus is this big. April Rickert does an amazing job of covering Southern Indiana. And so that's part of the problem, is that while they may do a great job, they have such limited focus and limited staff.
Gone are the beat reporters.
We don't even exist over here unless it's some catastrophic issue for the most part.
And that's
sad.
Well, the big elephant in the room is the resources.
Yeah.
A lot of these companies have slashed their staffs.
In
half.
And that's true.
Sure.
They've cut staffs, they've cut positions, they've cut everything. But the reality is, we're not in a studio right now with light guys and sound guys and production teams back.
I'm right here.
It can be
I'm pushing
done.
buttons.
Got a one-man
You know,
band.
a lot of the resource needs in local news are by choice, right? And we're not talking about people, we're talking about equipment, right? And so I get that we're doing things on a scaled back level, but you can still do quality on a scaled back level. You absolutely can.
Let's focus for a second on this. And I'd like you to articulate this. one of the points that you look at in here, it's the era of social media and my selfies, and let's talk about that. Where are you with what you see journalists and people in front of our faces, their focus, where it lays?
I think there's room for everybody. I have no problem with journalists doing news on their phone. In fact, I argued for it. I had no reason to lug around a 25-pound camera and a tripod that weighs more than that. That's impossible to get upstairs and into the Capitol building. I can do the work on my phone. I don't need, so I don't have a critique on people who are doing journalism by using their phones and social media. The critique I have are people who are hired to be credentialed journalists and to go out in the street and cover communities when they have no credentials to do that, and they have no background to do that, and and these newsrooms aren't offering them any kind of professional development to get there. So you're basically putting someone who has no more training other than maybe an internship in college or maybe an experience with their own personal YouTube page, and now putting them on television to cover a story because they're good on camera. They have no idea what they're talking about. And it's very clear that they don't know what they're talking about. And so I've got a whole chapter in here, like what happens when journalists don't know the news.
Or the area.
Or the area.
I would say that's kind of the last 10 or 15 years of shifts. Like just Louisville, as an example, used to be a destination market where you can make your whole
career. You didn't get here till you were 40.
And then now they hire the younger, let's just be honest, cheaper, right out of college. And then those people usually hop off in 2 years or something like that, the end of their contract. And I always called it, and we're talking about TV here, cheating on the viewer. The person at home is inviting you into their home, and they're inviting a relationship, and then a face is gone in 2 years or 3 years.
And that's by design.
So that just doesn't work, in my opinion.
We talk too much about longevity of journalists and the institutional knowledge that comes with that. But what most people don't realize is that we work on contracts.
Yes.
You don't get a job at a television station as an anchor and set up camp with the expectation of being there for 20, 30 years. It happens. Like, you could probably orchestrate that if you want. But every year and a half, every 2 years, every 3 years, your contract comes up for review. And then they can say, no, thank you. And then you're out of a job. So they're not creating a scenario where there's longevity in journalism.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We talk about, like social media. Who's somebody who's doing it right? Shay McAllister.
She absolutely is.
Shay is killing it. I have no right to say I'm so proud of her, but I am.
Isn't it weird to feel that way? Like,
I do. I was trying to be like, you go. I share her link. I subscribe to her. That is how she's paying her bills, and she deserves that. And I'm so happy to see it. But I also love, part of what I love about social media is that it has broken down barriers so that, I've known some people who are the consummate, anchorman and women who believe that, and it's happened with Hollywood too, where they believe that they're untouchable. And now social media kind of, for better or worse, and sometimes it's worse, it can create community. But it also, I think, creates this facade, like what you've said.
For me, it was very difficult because I was part of the facade. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean that internally. I started the struggle, I'd say probably around the 2016 range, because I wasn't proud of the work that I was doing.
Yeah.
People only knew me for the work that I was doing. So when I walk out of my house, when I walk out of my comfort zone, I walk into Kroger, I get, oh, hey, you're the guy from the news, which is very flattering, which is very nice. But what they didn't realize was I was embarrassed to be the guy on the news. And so those conversations would shut me down. I would get very quiet. I would get very reserved, which from the person who only knows you in your capacity of television, well, you're too good to talk to me, or why won't you talk to me, or he's not very nice. Nobody realized that I was uncomfortable in that role. And that was because I wasn't proud of the work that I was doing. And I was only known in public for that work. And so that was a difficult intersection to be in. And so on my social media, I've never been one of those, here's a selfie of me doing this today, or on my personal one, I'll take selfies all day. But I was never the person that thought viewers were interested in what I was having for dinner and where I was going on vacation. That wasn't my role. My role was to inform you, not to entertain you. And I was never able to cross over that line because I flat out didn't want to.
See, and I also now like watching Ben go from television meteorologist to owning his own existence in this digital format. I'm watching as somebody who enjoys, I mean, I eat the data for breakfast. I mean, I enjoy watching. I get giddy watching, okay, so when you share this type of content, look what happens, and ooh, look what happens when you share this type. I love watching this personal. I mean, am I wrong about? I know I'm not wrong because I see the data. People love to see this open door, but you control it. That's the thing. You get to control it.
It's way more personal, obviously, but like I think one point here with the book is that you're trying to fix news in general. Like there's no secret that people aren't watching TV very much. My kids don't watch it. My daughter does not have a television in her dorm room. That generation is not watching like a regular local newscast.
To say. I mean, okay, boomer. I mean, I'm not a boomer, but you know, that's what it makes me feel.
They're more like my nieces that just started college this year and watching their parents just try to plead with them. But you have to have a television.
And here it is. Let's just Netflix and chill, right?
So like, just the whole landscape is changing like at a very rapid pace where people are consuming their news, if they're consuming it at all. I mean, it happened to radio, it happened to newspaper, it's happening to television, but you're wanting to fix news in general wherever you're getting it.
It doesn't matter what your platform is, right? I actually don't care. I generally get most of my news off. I use my phone to do it. I have ChatGPT set up a news brief that's head of state style. So by the time I get out of my bed, I have a head of state briefing on the top 5 local, top 5 national, and top 5 international.
Wow.
Hang on a second.
I did not know you could do that.
So here we go. So listen to what Eric just said.
News you can use.
This is how you use ChatGPT for you.
And then I use Shay.
Right?
And Shay's a great example because Shay is meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
But your skills travel with you. Shay is not a social media influencer trying to get followers. Shay is a journalist trying to influence people.
And she is focused on that.
Shay has credentials. Shay has credibility. Shay has been in the field. Shay has filed reports from courthouse steps. Yeah. She knows what she's doing. And that's the distinction that I have to make here. Because so many people that we're watching on local news do not have that level of agency. And they're being asked to perform as though they do without any type of professional development or support from the stations. Because the stations want the live shot, the stations want the package, they want the report, and they want it fast. Yeah. And even the fact checking, like the proofreaders.
And not to give it away, but you do this is a call to action book, I would say. So a few tips here for these organizations, or do you want them to read it?
Well, not just that, who's doing it right?
When I look at newscasts, I'll tell you, the one I watch is WLKY, and it might surprise people because I used to work there. I'm so proud of Carrie Grace because I know what it was like for her when she started versus what it is like for her now. The path that she has carved out and the quality of work that she does.
She does a great job.
Brian Schlonsky over at Wave has national credentials. He's a hometown guy. When he goes out into the field, he does the job and he presents it with that level of agency when he goes on the air. I think they're fantastic. I think they're certainly getting right. And I think you guys are getting it right. Because here's the thing. We look at local news and we see the struggles that we have with it. We see what we don't like about it and some of the things that we might like. You said Southern Indiana is not served the way that it should be. And we all know that to be true in our local market. We only say Louisville and then, also.
We're an addendum.
You said, this is lacking. What can we create to make it better? And so you stepped into a new role. You created something that didn't exist. And it's successful and it's informative and people rely on it. That's what I'm talking about. The apparatus of news has to change. We're still in a place where people say, coming up after the break, what's in your refrigerator that might kill you? Why am I going to wait for something if you know it now?
I feel like you've done that before.
You are not trying to inform
Yeah.
me. You're just trying to hold my attention through the next commercial break.
Yes.
That's not the same thing.
You just had, though, you did have the perfect TV,
Oh, I can do
TV
it.
voice right
I've been
there,
part of that.
Eric.
I've been part of the problem. I've worn the suits. I have done the teases. I have talked about Taylor Swift, and I can tell you when the McRib is coming back.
You know,
I
and
remember all those.
it's funny. So we were talking when we were getting ready. I can share this. Like we were getting ready. We were talking. You know,
Catching up because we've all worked together.
I mean, definitely. But I also, in addition to just focusing on news, one of the things that I love, and I'm not going to articulate it the way you did, but that now you get to be all of Eric.
Yeah.
And that is so freeing. Like you are in charge of you.
It's so new to me. I'm still asking for permission at times almost. My bosses at the ACLU of Kentucky are often saying, yeah, okay, go. Do that. And I'm like, are you sure? I can say this, I can say that. Because you spend your life working towards something. And I like to think that I did it right. I focused on travel. I focused on foreign language. I focused on understanding international diplomacy and geography. And I studied the Peter Jennings when the Berlin Wall fell and the Jim McKay and the Munich Olympics. This is the way that I came at broadcasting. So when I report, I try to look for perspective. I try to look for context. And when you do those things, you learn, right? And so over this 20, 25 years, I feel like I learned a lot. But I was working in a capacity that forbade me from infusing any of that. And for really being able to say some of the things that I thought needed to be said. Some because the stations felt that it wasn't appropriate for journalism. Some because, we only have 30 seconds for that story. We don't have time for an Eric soliloquy today. And so that was frustrating. The benefit of now working for the ACLU is I'm naturally inclined to ACLU topics. I am all about advocacy. I'm all about equity and fairness. I know what it's like. I've lived in I lived in Montana. I was the only black person anywhere around. I had to learn how to cut my own hair because nobody there had to do it. I know what it's like to live in places where you are extremely minority, right? And I can appreciate what the ACLU allows me to do because it's a bring your whole self to work kind of thing and say the things that need to be said and help us spread that message in a way that meets digital audiences beyond, just what our social media reach might be.
Switching gears for a second, although I think both Ben and I agree, never mind the fact that you can support Eric by buying this book, but it's an important book. It's a great read. It's a quick read, and I keep going back. I love, my degrees are in English, so I just love how just your word choice, your sentence structure. I'm one of those. I geek out about that stuff
that so much
as well. But being a part of the ACLU, one of the things here, couldn't agree with you more. I think WOKY is rocking it in so many ways. One of the aspects of Extol Unfiltered, caffeinated by NWSB, is adding a news element. We have chosen not to because, sure, can we surface level? Absolutely, all day long. But we are presenting something different here in this venue. But when it comes to what is happening on a national level, where are you right now? We're seeing, and I'm not talking about politics because that's something both of us are on, we stand together on that. That's not what this program or this venue is. But, Ted Cruz said something the other day, when we start limiting, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically when we start limiting free speech, we start limiting all speech.
So one of the benefits of having worked in Dallas was familiarity with the Texas congressional delegation.
Yeah.
I've met Ted Cruz several times. I disagree with him vehemently on most things. He was right on that. I also know him to be very, very smart. And that's something that gets lost in conversation. We talk about who people are politically, but you don't recognize the level of intelligence that exists in people. And he is a brilliant, brilliant person. Disagree with him, but he is brilliant. But to your point, what's happening on a national level, and local is national when we're talking here, it's painful to watch. because from my perspective and the perspective of this is, we have lost the translation element of high level, difficult to understand content to people who go to work every day and who have to make decisions based on it. And that's where local news is lacking. That's the genesis of this book, because you do not have somebody that can take what's happening with a FCC potential merger and Jimmy Kimmel and whatever political elements that exist, and have somebody translate that into terms that all of us can understand and then make appropriate decisions on. And that's where I struggle, because I see it happening, and polarization comes from either lacks of information or disinformation. And the places that we're supposed to go to clear that up are either unwilling or incapable because of their hiring choices of doing that. And that's where I struggle. And that's why I talk about the importance of context and perspective and looking at rundowns for newscasts and recognizing this is all reactive content. It's not a news story if Metro Police or New Albany Police issue a press release and you report the press release and then go out and get people's reaction to it. I'm not interested in reaction. I'm interested in analysis. And that's what's lacking. And until there's some level of translation or analysis that happens in the middleman area, you're going to have this group and this group that have no way of communicating with each other. And that's mass communication
Amen.
101.
I mean,
And you can Google what's happening with these corporations buying up and gobbling up all these television stations. So it's going to be interesting over the next few years.
And the goal of those purchases are not to inform you. You know, when a general manager is held to account for the ratings of a station, they're not asked, how many school boards did you hold to account this month? They ask, how many eyes did you keep on the screen for the 6:17 a.m. tease and commercial break? It's not about the information. It's about the eyes. They're not informing, they're holding your attention.
like Ben said, okay, we'll wrap on this, but like Ben said, I mean, what do you throw out there, Eric, in terms of how do we combat this? How do we get better?
News directors in local markets are really going to have to be the gatekeepers here. They're going to be the ones that have to listen to what the corporate mandates are, because you still have to pay your mortgage, you still have to have a job. I get it. They're the ones that are going to have to listen to or look at what's being mandated by their corporate offices and figure out ways, and bring more people to the table to get more ideas, figure out ways to take the mandate and transition it into something journalistic that matters to people, rather than take it and regurgitate it and get reaction to it.
And I'll just add one final thing too, because I feel like I could write a chapter or two.
And I know that you could.
But I won't. But I mean, news broadcasting gave me my livelihood, so I owe a lot to it. And I went to college to become a meteorologist, got to do my dream job, became a chief meteorologist, all that good stuff. But the stress got so huge because of a lot of staff cuttings and stuff like that. I even talked to a therapist, and he said, it might be 3 years from now, and you might be watching a newscast, and you might have some, like, a triggering, like a little PTSD. I'm not saying this, I'm not going to war. I'm like, it's a cushy job. But I feel like this is going to be pretty cathartic for you, that you got to lay a lot of your feelings out, and you probably held back a little bit.
I did. I did, because I'd run into some things in this newsrooms that were just not okay.
But you're smart enough to know
That doesn't matter to people.
Right.
That's not
That's
where
yours.
the action happens. The completion, and I use the word complete purposefully because a lot of people have asked since this has come out, well, how do you feel? How do you feel that it's done? And I felt accomplished. I felt like I did something that I'd set out to do a long time ago. But those are kind of generic answers. The real answer is I feel complete. You know what it's like when you have a conversation about something important to you, and then when you're done, you're like, oh, I wish I would have said this. Write a book. Because when you're done,
Right.
you're done. And I've just been really, really happy with how much lighter I feel having written this.
On both accounts, your former job well done. On this, job well done. And I'm just happy for you. You made that transition.
You too, man.
right? I mean, it's kind of this evolution that we've all had an experience with. I want to pull up a couple of comments here. So here, I love this. Joe Happel says, just Joe, like, just report and stop judging. I mean, I feel ancient when I say this, but I remember the days when opinions were for columnists and for the opinion desk instead of just, I will never lose that. Tell me what's happening. Stop telling me how I should feel about it. Stop swaying me. But I love, Joe, thank you so much for weighing in here. Tracy Smith Carson, this is amazingly genuine. Thank you. I mean, Eric, you can tell how genuine, and I mean, Ben, you are always very genuine about your experience. Nick is giving some claps up. Thank you.
Thanks,
Nick, say Nick's name for me, producer Jason. Valley? Oh, Nick, I'm sorry, I failed you there.
Hold on, spell it. Let the professional-
V-A-L-I-Y-I.
Say it again.
V-A-L, Val-I-Y-I.
Vali.
Vali. All right, there we go. Now, Debbie Gober, it's concerning that Gray Media owns two, or almost owns two, of our local stations. And if you don't know, Wave 3 News is owned by Gray, and Gray is purchasing WDRB.
Right.
And so we're going to see.
And there's fear. I'm not going
Absolutely.
to claim to know the insides of it, but I have very close friends at both stations, and there is fear about jobs.
Sure.
And there should be. That's a very scary place. Or a scary place to be.
We can't, predict what's going to happen. But what, in a situation like this, I mean, have you seen this in other markets? Do they take two stations and mesh them into one and use two channels? Do they leave them alone to be autonomous? Are we just going to have to wait and see?
I feel like I've heard of stations merging, but I've never actually seen it.
When I worked in Augusta, right when I left, they merged stations, and
So like one chief meteorologist, one
It can be.
11 o'clock.
I don't want to predict that.
Yeah,
but
it's so frightening because, and when we talk about journalists losing their jobs, we see job reports every month or how often they come out, and even in the best economy, when they're saying, "Oh, we've just added this many hundreds of thousands of jobs," are they adding journalists? Are they adding TV news producer?
Yeah.
Are they adding? I always get really, really kind of sketchy when I hear those numbers because it's one thing to say we're creating jobs, but what are those jobs?
Right.
And selfishly, does that benefit me? Does that benefit my people, my family, my friends?
Yeah. Okay, Nick weighed in. Nick, you didn't tell us how to say your name, so again, forgive us for this. But he says this conversation is missing nationwide. Thank you so much for highlighting what is happening. Thanks to all of you for taking the time to watch, whether it's live now and you're weighing in or you're catching us in the replay. We appreciate that because that's one of the things here, this is produced by Extol, that we have embraced and have embraced for a long time, is trying to meet people where they are.
That's the key.
And catching on. Eric, we appreciate you taking the time. It's so good to see
It's
you.
just hanging out with people that you know.
that's right. That's right.
It's so good to see you. Well, it's Monday, which if you're in the Extol house, you know what that means. It's Ready, Set, Prep. You want to get those orders in by Thursday.
Ready, Set, Prep is a way to provide a service for people that may have a hard time finding places to eat just because of their dietary restrictions. We accommodate any sort of dietary restrictions. So if you're low carb, or gluten-free, or vegetarian, or vegan, any of our meal prep meals can be adjusted that way. So we're located at 1222 State Street in New Albany, right down the road from Baptist Wood Hospital. We are open Wednesday through Sunday, 9 to 4 o'clock.
I love Ready, Set, Prep. Oh, okay. So I love this. Nick is still sticking around with us. Oh, Nick, I should have known that. And I'm sorry. It's Monday. It's
Valley.
Valley. Like
so I was wrong?
Frankie Valley.
Oh, no.
Just FYI. I mean, so
The Roman news is if you can't pronounce it, say it aggressively and fast.
I like that. So I MC the Lanesville Heritage Queen and Princess 50th annual, other than COVID, princess pageants. And part of it was the princess pageant. And then in the middle was honoring all 50 names.
In that anxiety and
Well, I write phonetically and accidentally, which I love this, accidentally when we posted all the pictures and things, then we had like a little article article and then all 50 names. I gave the list of phonetic spelling. So Tim Tomes called me, thank you, Tim. And I then went and just said, Jason, you got to replace this, because I will. I'll write it, double E's or just. So
Well, my favorite was they would often put one name, like if we're talking about news and teleprompters, one name would have a phonetic, but the one that you really needed didn't. It would say Angie Fenton and Ali Akbar Shabazz. What?
If I were you, I would have nightmares about the teleprompter. Because back in the day, there was someone,
I didn't read it, so.
there was someone that would control the teleprompter, and then it became a remote control. That stressed me out just
was a
watching
big-
you.
Oh, I
do
used
that.
to sit there and I'd be like, up, come on, up.
My thing was,
I didn't want to touch that thing.
they would always get angry with me because I would always say, we're going to do the show at my pace, not yours. I would always be dragging. I was like, prompter, my pace, not yours.
I had lots of wonderful people who were around us, but there was a known teleprompter operator who would be like this.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, wait, you've got to actually
Yeah.
move the scripts. And for those of you who don't know, there are a lot of people, you'll see them hold on to them, a lot of anchors and things, and they will move
Yeah.
the script up themselves.
I
But we
got
used
the
to have
point
extra
where I
help.
preferred to run it by myself.
Oh,
it
hands
was
down.
an act of dexterity to do it. But
Hands
I
down.
just didn't trust anybody to do it for me because my pace would change, and I don't read half of what I see on
Yeah.
the prompter, and so I would be skipping around,
Yep.
and whoever was running it for me is
Be like, "What?"
like, oh, I got it.
All right, so if you didn't know, if you're just joining, Eric King, the author of Broken News. This is a fantastic, quick read, a great book. I recommend that you purchase that. But it opens a conversation that we've been having here, but we asked Eric to stick around. And Eric, one of the things we usually do at the top of the Extol Unfiltered, Caffeinated by NWSB is talk about our weekends. And Ben, I think you had an exciting weekend.
It was a fun weekend. My daughter got to go to the IU and Illinois game.
Can I show?
For sure, yeah, if you got it.
What was the score?
What was it, 60 to 10
10?
or something like? Yeah, it was a nice blowout.
It
Because Illinois was ranked higher, like 9th. So I don't know if they'll be ranked anymore. But
was it was a blowout, and I actually saw some UK fans going, hey, IU, coming for your coach. So hang on, here, check this out.
So,
Wow.
I didn't get to be there, but I'm just happy for Hannah, my daughter. So we're new Hoosier fans, of course. But she got to be at the very top of the student section because she got there a little bit late. But the vibe there, I'm sure, was awesome for those kids.
I miss going to football games is fun, obviously, but
Yeah.
I miss being in the student section. Now it would just be weird if I was the almost 50-year-old person in the student section, but I just.
No way. Invite Eric to your
There you go.
student section.
I'll be watching
Send
the
us a
game,
video.
but then I'll be looking at the student section going,
Aww.
She had a blast. But
then you also enjoyed.
so I went to my first Salem Speedway race.
Okay.
I mean, that's a track that's been there since the 1960s. Those people live and breathe and die by racing. And so I got to be a part of that. Brad Weddington sponsors Kimmel Racing. So Will Kimmel was racing, and I think he got like 5th or 6th place. So it was fun just being out there watching those.
Let's take a look.
So I'm not huge into racing, but even if you're not, I recommend just going to it. Like, it's just an experience. And
did you have to wear earplugs?
a lot of people do, but I did not. Well, I could tell it was loud, and I probably should have. But it's a convenient place if you ever want to go to a race there in Salem, and you can just walk down, get a beer, walk right back up, and have a good time. So it was it was a fun time.
You just described every sporting event.
I mean, pretty much.
Convenience. It was easy. The lines weren't bad.
I
There was a lot of
learned
people there.
Circuit of the Americas. If you remember, like way back in the day, a bunch of people who used to work at Churchill Downs Racetrack went to Austin, opened up Circuit of the Americas, and I got hired. They flew me down, and Formula One. It was their first Formula One race, and so I was their on-cam host. And I mean, I dove in to learn, but I was like, what is so exciting? Oh my God.
You had such a better
I get
experience. I got sent to city council meeting.
I mean,
Formula One.
city council, I've been at, as I look over, I've been at city council meetings, and let me tell you, part of it is that you can't, like, you can't say anything. Like, if we could, like, cheer or not cheer at city council meetings, more people would come there.
The worst is if you're a reporter covering a murder trial and you feel like the attorney should be better, and you're like, am I the one
You got
that
it.
for you?
Right? But like Joe Happel said, start reporting, and just only report. Don't share
Yep.
the opinion. Well, here was my weekend. I mean, I could, if I didn't have the computer, I would act it out. It was put one of the 4 dogs on a leash, take them out the front door. We're having our whole entire deck has to be rebuilt because it was complete garbage. The original wood was the wrong wood, or not a great wood, so there was nothing salvageable. So we have 4 dogs at home, all of whom are used to being let out the back and into the dog yard. And so they've all been going out on a leash, which I've got one who's like, what do you call that? Like when somebody doesn't do something in public, like she won't go potty on the
She
leash.
got a little shyness.
That's, I mean, whoa.
Oh, no.
So then later you're just like, Olive, get the mop, because she's like, you're looking at me.
You know,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
always struggle if somebody were to watch my dog, because I have a doggy door in a yard, so she comes and goes as she pleases. When people say, well, what's the schedule? When does she go out?
Whatever.
I didn't ask her.
No.
We love talking about weekends. Well, we also love talking about Adam Kleinert. He's been our creative director here at Extol since we started, which is, I mean, we're very close on our 11th year.
How's that feel
Coming
for
up
you?
in October. Both like the longest and just in a flash, but also, Eric, I mean, I think on the notion of what you're doing and what we've experienced, exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Every day is exciting because I get to do this. I get to choose.
Today matters because.
Yes.
Right?
It's just, and who knows what comes next? I have no idea, and that is exciting. But Adam Kleinert, whose daughter is getting married on October 4th, Adam is an artist in Henryville, in addition to being our creative director and a phenomenal graphic designer. But every week we watch a different episode of Art with Adam, where he connects Indiana in some way to different figures, some of whom like Grumpy Cat. Do you know who Grumpy Cat?
Yes.
Rest in peace, Grumpy Cat. Was connected to Indiana. Had no idea, but here's this week's episode.
I don't think there's anyone that doesn't know Larry Bird is from Indiana, and most probably know his talent for trash-talking his opponent. But is it really trash-talking when you can always back it up? After he led the Indiana State Sycamores to a 33-1 record in the 1979 season, and just months before he was drafted by the Celtics, Larry Bird did what Larry Bird always does. Bob Warren, the Indiana State's baseball coach, was constantly ribbing Bird for spending so much of his free time getting ice and massages from the trainers. But one day, Warren insinuated Bird was not tough enough to play baseball. Bird disagreed, and the coach was excited to give Bird the chance to embarrass himself on the baseball field. However, Bird did anything but, going 1 for 2 on the day with 9 putouts at first base against Kentucky Wesley. And the cherry on top, Larry Bird drove in the game-winning runs, adding to the lore that is Larry Legend.
Wow.
Ames Valley.
I
high
always
school.
learn something new. I know, Adam. Adam's awesome.
I just love that. I just love being able to see art come together like that.
He does. You've got to follow Art with Adam. He does all kinds of. I mean, all kinds of things. I can't even jump in. He's at different art shows and things. But I love that he also has just an affinity for people with autism, and he's just a phenomenal artist.
Follow his page. He's doing a lot of stuff now on social
he's
media.
so good.
I didn't know about this. Or there's a world where he'll roll dice.
Yep.
And then have to draw or paint with a certain type of paint or whatever, watercolor or whatever it is, and then draw or paint this genre, and there's a whole
Have you
different
seen the
world out there.
pancakes?
Yeah, I
He's
did, yeah.
made art out of pancakes. It's Adam Kleiner. Adam
Lot going
Kleiner.
on.
Adam Kleiner art.
I wish I had some type of
Same.
creativity like that.
Same. Well, Eric, thank you
Yep, thanks
for
for being
taking
here,
the
buddy.
time.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
You too. It's been a long time. Since
I know. Let's go play some tennis.
Let's go match bourbons.
We could do that too. We could do that too.
I love
We're
that.
all playing
We could
tennis.
do both.
Make sure that you stay tuned for Ben at 10, coming up at 10 o'clock. Thanks for joining us on Extol Unfiltered, caffeinated by NWSB. Have a great rest of your week.